Yep, I'm back. Alright, listen up. As your commissioner, I would like to formally apologize for taking so long to do these damn videos. I have been lazy and... lazy. There's no other term for it. I just haven't been doing these things. I apologize to all of you. As somebody who doesn't have anything except for work, I should be doing these every week, and I haven't been. So I apologize for that. However, I'm going to get right back into these things and start making them again because I feel like since we're all off in different portions of the world, down in California and everything, over in Oregon, Drew, or up in the good old, Pacific Northwest and Washington, you know what I'm saying? We got to go ahead and keep this, continued rivalry and the competitive spirit going. So I thought that no other better way is to do that than if we just go ahead and bring back the pick'ems. Now, again, it is a disclaimer. I may make fun of some of you. I hope none of you actually take it seriously because, fuck, when was the last time you took anything that I said seriously? But besides that, this is all just meant to be fun and have a good time. So I'm going to go ahead and just get into these things. So let's start it off with the Week 5 roundup. So a quick recap of all the Week 5 festivities that went down. Of the 5 matches, mine was probably the most boring. Dom beat me by 24 points because I had a guy on the bench go 30 points. And my running back, Mr. Bishop Sankey, got me a cool 2 points. Thank you for that, you no-talent ass clown. In other more important and more exciting news, we got our first loss for Mr. Quim Firmstad getting beaten by Wally. I'm happy now because now nobody in this league is perfect, so there's no talk of perfection, as there should never be any kind of talk of perfection in fantasy football because it's fucking fantasy football. Other than that, Greg surprised everybody by leading everyone in points, 162 points scored, and getting his first win against Scott Benny. Pretty handed win right there. Now the other 2 ones were the ones that came down to the wire. Drew barely lost to Ryan Mix, Mr. Back on Top. Ryan, your name is just way too sexual. It just is. If you're 3-2 and you got a name like that, never mind. Got a 1-point win against Drew Goodman to go ahead and get his 3rd win of the season. And finally, the one that came down to it at the very last game of the night, Kale and Michael. Michael started off really low down in the points, came back really, really close, and then lost by 1. So, heartbreaker there, but still an interesting week nonetheless. I mean, hey, it's fantasy football. It's always going to be fun. So that concludes the Week 5 roundup. Let's go ahead and get into the Week 6 pick'ems. Alright, so in the first matchup of the week, we got Wally, a.k.a. Bangarang Peter, going up against Greg, a.k.a. Beats by Ray. Greg, change the fucking name, dude. It's kind of fucked up. Anyways, I think this is going to be a pretty good matchup. Greg's got a good team going into this week. He's got the number 1 waiver wire ad of this week with Brandon Oliver, who could go off. We'll see how he does this week. But he's also got 5 guys projected to get 19 points or more in this week alone. That's on top of Greg also scoring 164 points last week. Dude's got a pretty scary team. For a guy who's 1-4 for the first 5 games, I'm not paying attention to that record at all. I think that he could really beat us. On Wally's side of things, he's got a great team with Eddie Lacy and Giovanni Bernard, both poised to score a lot of points against some pretty shitty defenses. And he's got Julio Jones, who could go off, just absolutely off this week. The one drawback, though, is that Matt Stafford is on Wally's team, and if Calvin Johnson can't go this week, it's going to be a serious hindrance for his amount of points. So I'm going to say that I think that Beats by Ray takes Bangarang Peter into the elevator and makes another knockout video. In our next matchup of the week, we got Quinn Firmstad, a.k.a. Suck My Sec, a.k.a. the number 1 team in the league currently, versus Michael O'Neill, a.k.a. Adrian Peterson's team of lawyers. Gotta take a second to say, Mike, I feel for you, brother. I am so sorry that you ended up getting the shittiest shaft of the stick this year. Getting Adrian Peterson for the first pick of the first round must have felt awesome, and then immediately 2 games afterwards, I'm guessing probably felt like getting hit by a switch. Probably felt pretty shitty. I'm glad that it happened to you and not to me, but at the same time, I feel for you, brother. That's a shitty situation to be in. From everybody in the league, though, I'd just like to say, haha, welcome to the league. So, now, in terms of the actual matchup between the 2 of these teams, this is going to be an actually pretty interesting game. I think that between the 2 of the teams, they got some pretty stacked players. Michael O'Neal has Antonio Brown as the number 1 ranked wide receiver currently, and Andrew Luck, who's also the number 1 ranked quarterback. Those two guys right there are studs, and they're probably going to deliver a shit ton of points. However, Quinn has a really, really good team. He's only got 2 guys that are not ranked in the top 10 in their respective positions. Everybody else is. With that being said, I think that it's going to come down to one specific matchup, and that's going to be the Dallas Cowboys versus the Seahawks. The reason why is because Michael's got the Seahawks for his defense, and we all know that the defense can be able to get a lot of points if they get a lot of turnovers, which Romo is very capable of throwing and fumbling like he did against us last time. Now, besides that, DeMarco Murray is on Quinn's team. If DeMarco Murray runs for more than 100 yards, I think it's game over. Good night, Irene. Michael's team doesn't have much of a chance. However, if the Seahawks can shut down DeMarco Murray and get enough picks off of Romo, I think that this one could be a really interesting match that could turn towards the way of Michael. So I'm going to go for the upset this week and say that Adrian Peterson's team of lawyers handles a subpoena up on Suck My Sack. In our third matchup of the week, we've got Little Giants, a.k.a. Dominic Sikic, going up against Kale Kaufman and arguably the greatest fantasy football team name I have seen in a long time, Clay Matthews Band. Well done, sir. I like that. Now, between the two of these teams, this is going to be tough to predict, not only because they're close, but because Kale hasn't set up his lineup yet. Now, I'm not ragging on him, but Kale's got some holes that he has to fill up. Haha. He's got Moneyball, who is out for the foreseeable future. He's got Marcus Colston, who's on his bye week this week. And he's got the guy who should be doing amazing, but is playing like utter garbage, LaShawn McCoy. I can see Shady having a really good week this week and going off against the Giants defense. However, I don't know if this is going to be the week that he does it. It just has not been in the cards for him lately. Now, Kale's team is good. Gronkowski is a solid player that everybody should have. And if they don't have, they're a fucking idiot because Gronkowski's a beast. But Dom's team is pretty stacked this week. He's projected to get 6 guys over 18 points or more. That's saying something. That's a lot of fucking points. In fact, he's the highest rated projected player, or the highest rated team this week for points. Dom's team's got a lot of guys who can get a lot of points. Now, the thing about it, though, is that his team has guys like Eli Manning, who could potentially throw 4 interceptions in a game. Is that going to happen? Hasn't happened yet, so I wouldn't say so. However, it could always happen. We never know. Now, because the two teams have not been set up in their lineups right now, I can't say that there's going to be an official decision because it could be a lot closer than it actually is. However, the way that it's looking right now, I say that Clay Matthews Band looks like a girl at a frat house that just took a roofie. About to go down pretty quick. In my matchup of the Fantasy Football Week, I'm going up against Ryan Mix, a.k.a. Mr. Back on Top. Oh, Ryan, you had to know this was coming. I'm going to make fun of you. Alright, let's get into it. First off, Ryan, the picture that you have for your fantasy football picture looks like 3 Photoshop versions of you fucking Peyton Manning in the ass. That was not well thought out. Number 2, although you may have Le'Veon Bell, who's a great running back, and you got Fred Jackson too, you also have Steven Jackson in your starting lineup. And that guy is so old that the last time he was relevant is when dial-up was still a thing. Also, you got guys like Larry Fitzgerald, who 5 years ago was a good wide receiver. Right now, he's getting outpaced by a guy named Michael Floyd. Michael Floyd. Also, you got 2.0 Wes Welker with Julian Edelman. Honestly, I'm not worried about your wide receivers. Those guys couldn't catch AIDS if they were in Africa without a condom for miles. I am not concerned about your shit. In addition to, who you think Peyton Manning is going to be throwing touchdown passes to? Demaryius Thomas, on my team. Just came off of a record-setting performance. I say this week, Mr. Back on Top's going to feel like he's on the bottom because I'm about to put his ass in the ground. Nothing. And last but certainly not least, we have our game of the week. With 2 one-win teams looking for their second win of the season. On one side, we got Scott Benedict, a.k.a. I'm a Bat, going up against Drew Goodman, when I call my Phillip Rivers. Thank you for having that as your team name, Drew. I love reading it every single week. Now, between the two of these guys, it looks like it's going to be a pretty close matchup. ESPN scoring has these guys only 15 points apart in the projections. In my opinion, though, this one is either going to go as a total blowout or be super duper close. I think that Scott's team is a little bit more suited in the win of this week. Now, the reason for that is because Scott has done a really good job of vulturing the entire waiver wire. He's got Matt Asiata, who stepped up when Adrian Peterson beat down his kids. He's got Andre Williams, who was the Heisman Trophy runner-up last year. And he's got a guy named Larry Donnell, who, let's not forget, scored 3 touchdowns 2 weeks ago. Who the fuck is Larry Donnell? In addition to that, too, Drew's got a team who has guys that should be doing really well, but just have not produced yet. He's got a guy like Alfred Morris, who is a good running back, who just isn't really flashy. He's got guys like Andre Johnson, who kind of fell into the Larry Fitzgerald side of things, where 5 years ago, he was awesome. This year, he's kind of getting left behind by DeAndre Hopkins. In addition to, he's got Alshon Jeffrey, who's a really good wide receiver and has been doing better than his counterpart, Brandon Marshall, this year. The thing about it, though, is that it's all going to come down to Drew's team. If Drew's team ends up having a great week, I think that he could win this one. However, the way that I kind of see it right now, I think that I'm a Bat is going to make Drew drink those rivers of cum. And with that, this concludes our Week 6 Fantasy Football League Pick'em. I just want to remind everybody that everything that I said was meant to be funny, not to actually intentionally hurt your feelings. And if it did hurt your feelings, please, from the bottom of my heart, grow a pair and get over it. Everybody, good luck this week. I hope you all win, however only half of us can. And I'll see you all next week. Peace!